There is a very specific GSA called the Vendor Support Center. I'd ask you to add that to your vocabulary list. The URL is vsc.gsa.gov, and again, that was the Vendor Support Center. And that's where you'll find the vendor toolbox. I'll go over, well, I've kind of talked about the understanding of what the GSA schedule is comprised of. The qualification, again, that's what I was talking about. Are your business practices quantified? There are certain things you need to do to keep in good standing with GSA, maintaining your GSA schedule. There are registration and certifications that, again, is one of the primary steps that you need to, and a lot of it's going to be routine. Most of you have probably went to System for Award Management and DUNS, and you have a TIN number, a taxpayer ID number, and a CAGE code. We'll discuss the various solicitations and then what assets are actually available to you. I would ask everyone to write down readiness assessment. When you go to vsc.gsa.gov, the URL on the last entry point there, the readiness assessment is one of the first tools that you're going to do. There's 2 mandatory steps in the Vendor Support Center. If you click on the link that says Getting Started, again, write that down. You're going to take a training module called Pathway to Success. When you complete that training, you need to go and register for a training module. You'll get a certificate of completion. And that, again, will be one of those attachments that you make to your e-offer. The readiness assessment is a really good call for a small business. It kind of helps you look at your internal practices. It helps you look at your competition. It helps you look at the government marketplace and try to get a big picture and then give you enough data to make an informed decision whether or not to pursue a GSA schedule contract. Again, I can't talk highly enough about GSA and the schedules program. The vendor toolbox is one of the fundamental steps, and I would ask everyone on this same page, the vsc.gsa, there's a link that says marketing in the upper right-hand corner. I'm sorry, I got a couple questions here. I've got to pay attention. Are small businesses required to be on GSA's schedule, even to be a subcontractor to a prime? No. In fact, the only requirement that you have to be on GSA schedules is if you choose to partner with another schedule holder, and that process is called contractor teaming arrangements. If you're not familiar, please add that to your vocabulary list. CTA stands for Contractor Teaming Agreements, or Arrangements. And there is a really good website that outlines that. If you want to be a subcontractor to a GSA prime that someone is already on GSA, you would do that independently. GSA would not have privity of contract with you. It would, of course, be between you and that large vendor. Got a question, what does MAS stand for? Excellent question. MAS stands for Multiple Award Schedule. And please put that on your vocabulary list too. You need to get the terrain. You need to understand the backstory. What this means is we award multiple contracts for the same type commodity or service. So for instance, we have a schedule called GSA IT Schedule 70. Everything under the big information technology arena, be it hardware, software, or services, fall underneath GSA Schedule 70. The next level of intrigue is we use what we call categories or special item number. I'd ask everyone to write down special item number, and usually I try to get a laugh. I tell people I'm going to talk about sins all day long today. Well, special item numbers are how we categorize things underneath the schedule. There's a multitude of GSA schedules, and the number changes all the time. GSA is always trying to figure out how to do things better. I believe the number right now is somewhere in the upper 30s, how many GSA schedules there are. And there's a schedule for every vendor. Not to worry about that. Can you define schedule and solicitation, please? Help clarify things. Excellent question. The solicitation would be the document that you would find on FedBizOps. Every GSA schedule will have its own solicitation. The schedule is going to be, and I tell you what, I'll free associate here at the end of the presentation. I'll take you out. If you go to the GSA magnifying glass, the search tool, and type in list of schedules, you will find an overview in our tool called eLibrary, and I'd ask everyone to write down eLibrary. eLibrary is a market research tool that you can use 24/7, no username, no password. You can go out and find vendors, and actually it's a tool that we've set up for federal agencies, but you as a .com can also use this to see who your competitors are, to see what contract vehicles are out there. The schedules are clearly listed, and basically it's a collection. For instance, there's a furniture schedule. Well, that's going to be different from the hardware and appliance schedule. That's going to be different from the paper product schedule. So depending upon what you're offering, there's going to be a schedule for you, and I'll try to jump out to it if we have time at the end of the presentation today. The vendor toolbox, one of your primary steps, this will be one that you should go to early on. Let's see. Can you find, okay, does GSA work for service-based business, or is it just a product? No. Vendors can provide services and products, or do it independently. In the IT arena, which is where I come from, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, the information technology schedule has hardware. We have new hardware, used, refurbished hardware. If you sell hardware, we encourage you to offer a special item number for maintenance of hardware. We also offer IT professional services under what we call SIN 13251. And I'll jump out to that and show you some of that, just so a better understanding of things. But no, products and services both. Todd, let's see, is there a schedule for medical supplies? Yes, in fact, Hassan, there is a partnership. GSA partners with the Veterans Affairs Office. And if you go to eLibrary and use the search tool and type in medical equipment, you will be mapped directly to the VA's, you'll be doing business with the VA Acquisition Center in Hines, Illinois, and then depending upon what schedule and what special item numbers you fit to, that'll depend, again, what schedule and what SINs you belong to, but I'll try to get out there to do that too. Is there a schedule for signs indoor and outdoor? I'm certain there is, but I don't know the top of that one, Nona. We'll get to that. I'll take it out. We'll go out to the eLibrary tool for as quick as we can. A GSA schedule. I'll get ahead of myself. You'll hear it used different words. A GSA number, which is very loose and kind of not accurate. What is a schedule? What's a federal supply schedule? Real quick, GSA, the parent organization, has two main branches. Public Building Service, or PBS, is the government's landlord. They'll rent space in commercial buildings for federal agencies. They'll do repair and alteration repairs on federal buildings, and they'll build the new courthouse or the new border station. The Federal Acquisition Service, or FAS, is the home of the Schedules program. So everything under GSA schedule, again, it is an IDIQ, which stands for Indefinite Delivery, Indefinite Quantity Contract. It's a 5-year base contract with 3 5-year options. And basically, what we're doing, vendors bring their commercial products and services to GSA. We'll map you to the right contract vehicle, the right schedule, and then we'll determine what special item numbers you should apply for. And from there, it's a lot of work. Don't get me wrong, it is a lot of work to get on GSA schedule, but there is the payday that this is the go-to vehicle for all the federal agencies. Now, with that being said, the GSA Schedules program is voluntary. The various federal agencies can go open market for everything they want to do. However, in the interest of cost and time saving, they've realized that GSA provides a valuable function. And the value that we add is that we've vetted and we have pre-vetted vendors supplying the same products and services. So it makes their market research easier. They can always ensure that they have adequate competition. And again, there are certain nuances about the Schedules program that's nice. I'd ask everyone to write down spot price reduction. When we negotiate your prices as being fair and reasonable, agencies have the ability, and you in turn have the ability to issue what we call a spot price reduction. If you want to ink a deal today, March 6th, you could sharpen your pencil, give a better price quote to a particular agency on this day, and not have it affect how you do business the other 365 days of the year? Is there a schedule for service, marine services, and tugboats? Eddie, I think we can help you there, but I'm not sure. How does this differ from SAM? System for Award Management, and I know, Candy, I have a slide for this. The System for Award Management is one of your fundamental steps. Everyone must join, everyone must register within SAM, the System for Award Management. And I'll give a big shout out right now to my partners in crime. Everyone should know about Procurement Technical Assistance Centers. The acronym we use is PTAC, PTAC. The URL is A Alpha, P Papa, T Tango, A Alpha, C Charlie, dash US, like Uncle Sam, .org. The PTAC can help everyone in my sound of my voice get you registered for SAM. PTAC is a free counseling service that's funded by the Defense Logistics Agency. Typically, they are located at universities around the country. If you go to that website, aptac-us.org, I'm getting a shout out from Connecticut. He's giving me the CT PTAC. Okay, guys, that's my commercial for my PTAC folks. I'd encourage everyone to reach out to the PTACs. They're good folks. In my next life, I hope to become a PTAC. And just as backstory to me, I should have done this in the opening slide. I have worked for the General Services Administration for 28 years. I was a grade 5, 1102 contract specialist trainee in Boston. I started in 1989 87, I guess it was. And I joked that Ronald Reagan was president, low bid was the rule. Well, the Federal Acquisition Streamlining Act and the Federal Acquisition Reform Act of the mid-90s changed changed from low bid to best value. So a lot of things have changed, but I worked for design and construction, and I worked on increasingly complex projects in public building service in the design and construction office in Boston. Met a lot of really good people. It was a great learning environment. From there, I went to Chicago, and I was again working for public building service. I switched to the Federal Acquisition Service after a year or two out in Chicagoland, and there I became a warranted contracting officer. In 1997, the winds of fortune brought me home to D.C. By the by, I'm a D.C. native, and I ended up at the Schedule 70, which is the home of the IT Schedules program. I've been there ever since. So I can talk about Schedule 70, and I have a lot of good folks over there. They, in fact, do training there, too. Again, many of the PTACs can help out small businesses with the GSA Federal Acquisition Service proposal effort. They're great people out there, so I would really like everyone to reach out to the PTACs. I can't thank them enough. They're a great help to me. And I help them over the years at various times. A couple offices are more needy than others, but I'll take all their calls, too. Overview, 45 million line items. Every vendor brings their commercial offerings. Some vendors can have a simple, let's see, if you're an IT service provider and you had 4 labor categories, that's one thing. But a company like Dell literally has hundreds and thousands of line items because of every different option you can put into a desktop, a laptop, or a server. This slide currently says we have 39 different GSA schedules, 19,500 contracts divided between those contract vehicles. The majority of our vendors are, in fact, small businesses. And the last braggadocio is $50 billion in annual spend. So if you say, why GSA? This is the contracting vehicle of choice throughout the federal government. Again, as I stated earlier, we provide ordering activities with a list of pre-vetted vendors. This makes life easier for them, and it's easier for you to get on these agencies' radar by being on the GSA Schedules program. Effectively, we're talking everything over the micro purchase threshold. Actually, anything under the micro purchase can be done on GSA Schedules too. So if somebody needed just a simple toner cartridge, they can get out their purchase card. If you're on schedule, literally vendor an agency can consummate a buy with a vendor electronically and go to your website, pick the toner cartridge they want, enter their cartridge, hit order, and it's done, and you made a sale. One of the most important things that we do is we determine that your pricing is fair and reasonable. Let's see, a couple more questions popping up here. When you're having time, can you speak about dealing with GSA leasing service or real estate, any of the other service, veteran small business? The leasing side, John, unfortunately, that's going to be a different conversation. Today, we are dealing exclusively with getting on GSA Schedule. But again, I'll put that link back up about how to introduce your company or send a question. I'll be happy to follow up with everybody. How can we get a small $40,000 contract? Well, that's too busy of a question. Let's see, I want to talk to, this is over. Please repeat your contact information. Okay. There's static pricing? How does GSA work with schedule source-based business? A lot of good questions coming in. What I'm going to do is try to get through the presentation because I don't want to run over everybody's time. Again, real quick, what GSA does is we try to get a snapshot of how you do business. We look to you internally and you supply us information. We want to see your financials. We want to see your discounting practices. We want to identify what customers you do business with. A file called Commercial Sales Practices Chart. Commercial Sales Practices Chart, CSP chart. If you come in under a schedule and you offer 1 cent, you owe me 1 CSP chart. If you come in under schedule and offer me 4 special item numbers, you're going to be required to submit 4 commercial sales practices charts. Something you can look up, add it to your vocabulary list. Again, what we do is we determine you as a vendor that you are responsible. To that end, our contracting officers look at your past performance. That's another file that's on the FedBizOps page, part of the solicitation that you need to fill out. And what we want to do is get a snapshot of how you do business. We want to know, who gets your most favorite customer prices. We go and look at your pricing. GSA wants to be equivalent to your best pricing. Whoever your most favored customer pricing is, GSA wants that or better. And please understand, when my contracting officers ask for additional discounts, they're doing it with the interest of the taxpayers at heart. They're not doing it just to be obstinate. As a business person, as an entrepreneur, you might think it's a little intrusive, but as a taxpayer, I hope you understand we're trying to do the best by the federal government and spend the money as wisely as possible. In turn, when an agent, once you get a schedule, when the contracting officer asks from an independent agency asks you for an additional discount, you can always say no, but again, they're doing their job and they're trying to get the best value, trying to spend the taxpayers' money as smart as possible. Let's see. Again, purchase can be made directly from the contract, from their scheduled contract, eliminates the time-consuming process of responding to complex RFPs and lengthy negotiations. There are a lot of really good websites out there, and I'm going to ask everyone, add this to your vocabulary list. Ordering procedures for products. I would then ask you to write down the next one. Ordering procedures for services. Different websites, more information, different venue. And finally, ordering procedures for services requiring a statement of work. Believe it or not, there are very specific paths and very specific bits of information that have to be required. As an orientation, I think those 3 search strings, again, using that blue box with a magnifying glass at the GSA.gov website, use these search words, these vocabulary words, if you will, to go back and find them. There's a lot of information. There's much too much to try to get through in an hour. Advancing. Again, we quoted that there's 39 different GSA schedules. There's an IT schedule. Again, under IT, that would be hardware, software, and services. The Professional Services Schedule, or PSS. We used to have independent contracts, one called Financial and Business Solutions. We had an environmental schedule. All the service schedules were combined under what we call the Professional Services Schedule, or PSS vehicle. Again, we have the schedule for tools and hardware, scientific equipment. Schedule 84 is law enforcement and public safety, travel and transportation, lodging. All these things are available through the GSA schedules, and these agencies know that these are out there, and they're using them. I mean, $50 billion in sales. Let's see. Okay, keep getting questions through. Okay, qualifications. We are looking for vendors that have a higher degree of success, so we want to see somebody who's been in business for 2 years. This is kind of the benchmark. There is one exception to that in the IT Schedule 70 arena, but that's a very specific subset. These vendors are going to have financial stability. This demonstrates successful delivery of the product or service that they're offering. This also allows that the market has been able to set the price, that if you've been in business for 2 years, you have a commercially viable product or service, the marketplace is going to determine the price. The Trade Agreement Act, if you are supplying products, there's a different level of intrigue in that you must be compliant with the Trade Agreement Act. Part of the responsibility determination, we're going to make sure that you're not dealing with the North Koreas of the world, the bad players, the bad actors out there. The end products, if you are in fact a supplier, there is language about substantial transformation. If you are a supplier of products, you're going to need to get your manufacturers to give you what's called letters of supply. So depending upon what type of offering you have is going to be more specific about the questions I have. And I apologize, like I said, there's way too much information to cover this adequately in an hour. But what I will do is kind of hit you at the high notes, and I'm going to give you contact information at the very end of the presentation today. Okay, a couple things that you must be aware of. We set the bar, but we set it fairly low. For you to maintain your status as a GSA schedule holder, you are required to do $25,000 worth of business in the first 2 years, and then $25,000 every year thereafter. There is a process that you report your sales. It's called the 72A report. I'm not going to get into it today, but what it's going to do is, for those who aren't familiar with GSA, here's one that you need to write down: the Industrial Funding Fee, the IFF. GSA, Federal Acquisition Service, is different from most agencies in that we use our own industrial funding fee to support our operations. So the phone I'm holding in my hand, if we negotiated with Verizon, the fair and reasonable price was $100, it would go on Verizon's price list for $100.75. The 0.75% is what we call the industrial funding fee. You as a vendor now have to create another tracking spreadsheet to track your GSA schedule sales versus federal sales that are not covered under schedules. You need to track that industrial funding fee. On a quarterly basis, you come back to GSA and you report via 72A, which is a form number, and say, we did $1,000 worth of business. GSA, here's a check for $7.50. Again, it's 0.75%, but it does add another paperwork burden to you. Let's see, process time. We have established a cycle time of 120 days. That's always a question I get, but I will caution you, several factors come into play. The quality of your offer. Is all the information accurate, current, and complete? Or do we have to request clarification, additional information? Do we need to make you have revisions? So we strive for 120 days. It's a good benchmark to tell the boss it's going to take 5 to 6 months. You get it done in 4, you're a genius. One of the most important things I point out, that success is not guaranteed. I liken the award of a scheduled contract is equivalent to getting a fishing license. You have your paperwork in order, but you still got to go out. You still got to answer the RFPs. You still got to read the trade publications. Go to the networking functions. Go to the small business matchmaking events. Target the agencies. Read Fed Biz Ops. Just because you got a GSA schedule doesn't mean, the orders are going to come streaming in. Matter of fact, I'm on a task right now to contact over 2,000 existing schedule vendors with low or no sales. And I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, it's breaking my heart listening to all these sad stories, but it's a contractual requirement that can't be avoided. If you don't think you can do the 25,000, this may not be the right vehicle for you. That's where the next bullet point says contract can be canceled for lack of sales. That's part of it. GSA Advantage, for those who are novices. GSA has an online shopping tool akin to an Amazon. Vendors are required to post their offerings on GSA Advantage. Now, for you as a vendor, you can use that tool to go out and see what your competitors, how they're pricing. And that's a good segue into, if you're a product supplier offering a commercially available product, you can go to GSA Advantage. You can see what prices that GSA has awarded. As long as your proposed pricing today, March of 2017, if you will, falls within the range of bids received, we're probably going to be able to move forward. Of course, we look at vendors individually, so we're going to look at you, and then we're going to look at the market in total. If you're supplying a commercial product, one of the smart moves on your part is to go to Advantage, see what prices has been awarded previously. If your price is 400% above that, you're probably not going to get awarded that line item. That's nobody wants to end up on the cover of the Washington Post. No GSA contracting officer wants to be called out for something like that. So again, that's one of these things that by attending the webinar, as a tip, go out to GSA Advantage and look at the competing vendors if they're offering a commercial product that you're also offering. First step is System for Award Management, or SAM. SAM combines several old databases. One was called Orca. I believe it brought in some DUNS information too. But we have the System for Award Management, and it is becoming standard. Everyone should be familiar with NAICS codes, the North American Industrial Classification System. This is critical if you ever want to find opportunities on, say, FedBiz Ops. You need to know your NAICS codes. If you're not familiar with NAICS codes, I would ask you to go to acquisition.gov. There's a really good website out there, acquisition.gov. You can also go to the GSA e-library tool, and we actually have a crosswalk. So you can actually crosswalk NAICS codes to what schedule and SIN number. Lots of different ways to do the same things, lots of good tools. And I encourage everyone, when you go to these websites, kick the tires, open the links, take it for a spin. There's a lot of training videos out there that are embedded to these things that can get you through that learning curve, if you will. Well, ultimately, you're going to go, let's see, DUNS number, business plan. We have a link that can help you with the fundamentals of preparing a business plan. Again, find the appropriate solicitation out of the 39 that we have currently. Digital certificate is required. You are submitting this electronically, and this basically proves who you are and allows us to communicate securely. Every solicitation can be downloaded from FedBiz Ops. If you go and download a solicitation, and let's say it languages for 6 months, go back and download it again. Typically, we have 2 refreshes a year, but that can change if there's a lot of activity, laws change, new special item numbers are added or deleted, etc. But if you go to FedBiz Ops, you'll always get the most current solicitation. There is a required pathway to success training. We spoke about that at the Vendor Support Center, along with a readiness assessment. You're asked to respond to the solicitation in its entirety, and one of the things I will repeat again, we are always asking to make sure that your information is accurate, current, and complete. And then you submit your offer. The System for Award Management, or SAM, is mandatory. There is no fee for using that. Next, we touch on the Dun & Bradstreet number. DUNS number. DUNS number, I used correctly. That is individual to you. Again, NAICS code, the North American Industrial Classification System, you should be familiar with that. Past performance. The only actual cost involved in getting your contract is I believe it's $190 fee that you send to a vendor called Open Ratings. They ask you for a minimum of 6 references, and they will go out and contact these folks just so we can kind of, again, get a snapshot of who you are, that you are a viable vendor, that you have a higher degree of success. So they will actually go out, and again, this is one of the action items I tell people, do this early on. And the reason being is there's a backlog of work at Open Ratings. If your business practices are quantified and you have a fairly straightforward proposal, you might get this done in 2 weeks. Well, if you waited to the last punch list item you went to Open Ratings, they might have another 2 weeks. So we just put you off by a month. I'm sorry, your process has been delayed by a month. Not that we at GSA did anything about that. But again, I believe it's $190, and that's the only actual cost. And I'll give a shout to PTACs. One of the things that I love about my friends at the PTAC is I tell prospective vendors this: download the solicitation, complete the required training, assemble your documentation, get your financials, get your catalog together, then make an appointment with the PTAC. And they can kind of give you a review, not that they're going to want to do your work for you, but the PTAC can help maybe spot any shortcomings in your proposal. They might just say, oh, look, you gave 1 year of financials, but GSA wants 2 years of financials. The PTAC can, if you will, proof or assist you with that stage. And again, I joke and say, in my next life, I'm going to become a PTAC, and I'm very serious about that. I hold the PTACs in very high regard. They can help you. Prior to submitting, I'd make an appointment with the PTAC. But you could make an appointment early on with the PTAC and ask them about help getting on SAM. And what I always challenge people is write this down. Ask the PTAC how to find work at the federal, the state, and local government level. I just did a training seminar locally, and I said, local, we're talking about the city of Rockville or Montgomery County in Maryland. Next, we're talking about the state. The University of Maryland system has a buying program separate than the good folks in Annapolis. And then finally, the federal agencies would be at the top of the pyramid. So think about the federal, state, and local government level when you talk to the PTACs. Size standards. The Small Business Administration, SBA.gov, you have to go there. This is certification that you come to GSA and you denote what you are. Be you a small business, a woman-owned business, a HUBS-owned business, a service-disabled, veteran-owned business, etc. There's regional offices scattered throughout the country. This should also be one of your early stops, but again, it depends upon where your company's at in its life cycle and what help you need. Business plan. This is one of these things that we ask you to do. It's kind of an introspective look to help you figure out whether or not this is a worthwhile venture for you to spend the money to become a GSA Schedule versus other business capture, business development costs that you might incur elsewhere. And again, this is one of these things that it will help you focus on what agencies might you be doing business with, in turn what small businesses offices, if there's agencies you want to contact. Lots of good information out there. The Small Business Administration is a good starting point. But again, the business plan, GSA does in fact have a link that can help you. GSA's got a lot of really robust, easy to use websites. I can't encourage you to go out, open these links. Real quick, I'm not going to run it by you. These are the various SBA links for the various certification programs. Again, when you come to GSA, you self-certify, but you should have the backstory to make sure that you can validate that. If you were to say, show me the certification for a veteran-owned business. Again, I mentioned earlier that GSA eLibrary is a wonderful tool. You can go out and do market research and check in the time. Let me see where we're at now. 1:43. Got to wrap this up here a little bit. There are a number of different GSA schedules. From the top here, the Professional Services Schedule. This combined about 5, maybe 7 prior independent schedules into one.
That's based out of Auburn, Washington. The Center for IT Schedules, the IT Schedule 70 is the largest contract vehicle, the largest number of vendors with over 5,000, the largest number of contract line items, and the largest dollar revenue. We have various acquisition centers. The Fort Worth, Texas, Facilities Maintenance Hardware comes out of Kansas City. New York is our Office and Paper Products, the Northeast and Caribbean Supply and Acquisition Center. So depending upon what schedule you look at, and you can determine that in e-library, depends what acquisition center you'll deal with. Effectively, like I stated, what we're trying to do is quantify your business practices, identify who gets your best pricing. If you can live with that simple concept, we can do business. Again, the solicitation, the amount of information you're going to supply is going to be dictated by the schedule that you go to. This is one of the best vehicles because everyone uses GSA schedules at the federal level, and there's also use by state and local governments. I'd ask everyone to add this to your vocabulary list. Please add cooperative purchasing. And then behind that, write Schedule 70 and Schedule 84. Next line, write down disaster purchasing. If there is a presidentially declared disaster, both local government, city, county, and state can all access GSA Schedule for disaster purchasing. I would encourage those who qualify for cooperative, again, Schedule 70 and 84 vendors, to apply for cooperative purchasing. I would encourage every vendor to participate in disaster purchasing. Let's see, you're going to submit your proposal through e-offer. Requires a digital certificate. You will be contacted by a contract professional. More than likely it will be a contract specialist. They have the ability that this is in fact a negotiated procurement. So this isn't one bite at the apple, pass, fail. We can ask for clarifications or additional information. And again, we set a timeline of 120 days to get the typical offer, but it doesn't happen all the time. Contract negotiation, again, what we're trying to do is we want to get a snapshot. GSA wants to be your most favorite customer pricing. As a negotiation strategy, if you come in with your initial proposal and you maybe leave a little meat on the bone that you can give GSA's contracting officer a win when they negotiate, and you give them an extra half a point, that's a win for our contracting officer, it's a win for you. You got your scheduled contract. So again, remember that this is a negotiated procurement. GSA is trying to spend your tax dollars and my tax dollars as wisely as possible. It is business. We now come, BAFO is gone, best and final has now been replaced with the phrase final proposal revision. And this basically sets everything up for the first 5-year contract. Again, we'll award you a GSA contract number, and from there, you now have your fishing license. Real quick, this is kind of one of these bragging slides. Now, this slide's a little bit out of date. I got to update this. The Information Technology Schedule 70, almost $15 billion in sales. My Schedule 70 vendors did approximately $860 million with state and local governments during fiscal year 15. So if you have that opportunity to sell to state and local governments through Schedule 70 or Schedule 84, the total solutions in law enforcement, cooperative purchasing, the GSA program has been accepted by a lot of the local governments, be it city, county, and states. I get a lot more information. One of the presentations I'm going to give in the future is called Accessing Maximize Procurement Opportunities, something like that, and I'll discuss some of these opportunities. But real quick, the third line, what used to be called MOBIS, is now part of professional services. The fourth line, $1.5 million, professional engineering services, or PES, that became part of the professional services schedule. The financial 520, line 520, the FABS schedule became part of the professional services schedule. So it's always changing. Like I said early on, GSA is trying to react to our customers' needs and how we think the best practices are. So we combine things under the professional services schedule. Let's go back here. Additional resources. Again, you were talking to the Office of Small Business Utilization at GSA. If you went to the GSA homepage and typed in that search bar, training for small business, there are lots of on-demand courses you can take. There are orientation slides, maintaining your contract. I'll go out to that slide before we leave. We're just now at 1:50. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take another 10 minutes. I hope it doesn't mess anybody up, but I want to try to get in as much as I can. And it's impossible for me to do this in 1 hour. I have to be honest with you. I could do this for 8 hours, and I'd save you all a whole lot of consulting fees by doing this for you for 8 hours. Let's see. Again, can't talk highly enough about the SBA and my friends at the PTACs. They're scattered all throughout the country. Again, the URL is APTAC, and that stands for the Association of Procurement Technical Assistance Centers. And literally, you can't do wrong by going to them. There's a minority business development agency that you may not have heard of. It's an outreach effort by the Department of Commerce. Again, we're trying to give you information. There's a whole lot out there. I'm going to make these slides. I think I'm going to send all the slides to everybody who attended. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. We have broke the 200 mark for attendees. Woo-hoo. Boss is going to love this one. Believe it or not, GSA has a presence on YouTube. We have canned presentations that might have been recorded at a industry function thing. We have training modules that are available out on YouTube. Of course, I'm the guy who does it in person, and try to answer all those questions. The bottom link down here, Interact. I would encourage everyone to join Interact. Interact is our blog. If I was a business owner, I would sign up for the Interacts that apply to you. So if you're an IT service provider, I would join the Interact blog for Schedule 70. If you were a small business, I would join the Interact blog for small businesses. If you were interested in marketing your GSA schedule contract, I would link to the marketing blog on Interact. Lots of different links there. Can't recommend it strongly enough. We have a new email address, GSA, Office of Small Business Utilization, so it's GSAOSBU@outreach.gsa.gov. There is an 800 number that you can reach. Again, my name is Tom Corcoran. Right now, I'm on a 120-day detail, which expires the 22nd of this month. So if you use this link here, this is going to outlast me. This is how you can go and say you have a question or check in. This is going to get you in our database so we can develop a relationship and we can say, okay, you attended the March 6th training with Tom Corcoran. Oh, well, there's another training module coming up in a few weeks. Maybe you want to register for that event. So this would be the link. I should say, this is the website that I would encourage everyone to go and use this portal. And the reason being is it allows me to get a snapshot at who you are even before I talk to you. You can put in your comment or question, your issue that you're dealing with. Somebody wanted to talk about tugboats. Honestly, I'd have to do some research, but if I have your contact information and your issue ahead of time, I can do the research so when I speak to you, I can take you right to the meat of the matter. Now, don't get me wrong, I'll still spend an hour with you on the phone just because that's who I am. It's funny. We were asked during a conference call recently to come up with an adjective that started with the same alpha as the first letter of your first name. So I got hung Talkative Tom. So that's kind of a joke in my office, but everybody understands and everybody appreciates it. I have more information than I can possibly get covered in an hour. Let's see, do I have one more? Okay, real quick. I had this up earlier for those who joined early. I will have, my next webinar is going to be on Monday, April 3. And what we're going to talk about is more the doing business. Today's webinar was more about the startup, the getting started, the prerequisites, the training requirements, the backstory, the required training, the modules that you have to take, the e-offer, etc. Monday, April 3rd, look at that number there, 333 people registered today. My bosses are going to love me tomorrow. I have a new presentation coming out on Monday, April 3rd, providing a collegiate perspective on doing business with GSA. And then I have another training module out on April 17th, understanding how to access procurement opportunities. And this is on the GoToWebinar page, but I actually used the GSA search tool, and I just typed in training for small business. Please write that down in your little phrase, in your vocabulary list. Let's see real quick. Let me hit some questions before I get going. Let's see. I've got a bunch of PTAC signing in. Great. Let's see. When you have time, can you speak about dealing with leasing? That's a different concept altogether. My contact information, again, I would tell everybody use this link here. I left it. It dumped on me. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Let me work back through this. If you go to gsa.gov and you type in Office of Small Business Utilization, and then there's a contact link, you'll get to this page here. This was the page that I was referring to before, that there's all kinds of training that we have available to you. Again, use the search string training for small businesses. And let's see. Okay, let's see. GSA e-library. I mentioned the e-library tool. This tool's out there. I tell people that if you come over to the right-hand side of the page, there is specific information about how to find the correct schedules, view schedule contracts. That was a question earlier, how many different schedules there are. We start with 03, FAC, for facilities, maintenance, and support. Then there's office imaging and document appears. Travel and transportation, FedEx, UPS, the hardware superstore, buildings and building materials, industrial services. So again, no matter what you're offering, we got a question about medical equipment. There is a schedule 65-2 Alpha, the medical equipment and supply schedule. Now, just for demo, I'll pick on this one for fun. If you click on the link, it will then take you to the dedicated page for the medical equipment and supplies. Here's the schedule number, 65-2A. If you are interested, these are then the special item numbers, so depending upon what commodity or service you're going to offer. But the next step is there's always a link on every schedule page for vendors. Click here to view the current solicitation on FedVisOps. Bada bing, bada boom. Now you will find the link to the VA National Acquisition Center. They're actually based in Hines, Illinois. And then in this corner of the page, this is actually the solicitation document that you as a vendor would download. This repeats on every GSA schedule, so depending upon what schedule you belong to, I talk Schedule 70 a lot because that's where I'm going to go back to. Same kind of link. You click on the vendor's link and you will come out and you'll find the latest refresh. And these are to be part of the SBA and aid program and the schedules. Yes, in fact, you can, Marcus. 8A certification is one of the set-asides that every federal agency has, but you would go to the SBA to get your 8A certification, or your hub zone certification, or your service disabled veteran.
and then you would bring that and you would self-certify what programs you are registered and what categories you fall under. If you don't have past performance, that's a tough one. What I would say, March of 2017, it might be premature. One of the heartache questions I've heard is, I had 3 retired Air Force officers, literally 2 captains and a major. Combined, they had about 80 years of experience in information technology. They were subject matter experts in IT services. However, as a corporate entity, they had 3 months worth of experience. And one of the things we look at is we want to see 2 years worth of financials. We want to see a successful past performance. We want to talk to 6 references. And I had to give these gentlemen the hard word that it was premature. And basically what I told them to do was flip your calendar ahead in a year. Give me a call back in a year and we'll talk Schedule 70, see where you're at. If we can get you on the contract vehicle any sooner. What schedule full service signs and graphics? Good question. Let me go in here and type in the word signage. Sometimes, like any search strings, it looks like signs would probably fall under GSA Schedule 78, special item number 366-11. Now, there may be other sins. For instance, the word signing came up, but that's not it. Let's see. There is sign lighting, portable lighting, that was under Schedule 56. Let's see. Came up under medical, under vital signs monitor. Let's see. Law enforcement. And then you can see the vendors that were actually awarded it. Let's see. When you own an HVAC company, how do you bid on emergency services or routine? The building material maintenance schedule would be the correct vehicle for the HVAC. You would look at probably Schedule 03 FAC or Schedule 56. Who was that? Suzanne. And again, what I tell people is, if you're not sure, drill down, look at the schedule, find the appropriate category or special item number, and they have big. The first Federal Stock Class 61 is power distribution equipment, generators, and batteries. Well, that may not be used. So you scroll down to the next one, Federal Stock Class 39, warehouse equipment and supplies. Federal Stock Class 49, maintenance and repair equipment, shop equipment, maybe environmental products. Now, are they talking about HVAC? Well, let's just go and try HVAC. No, I didn't want to go to Advantage. I want to stay in E-Library, HVAC. It looks like a better fit for you, Suzanne, would be under the 03 FAC, which stands for Facilities Maintenance and Management. And then I'd like you under a category or SIN 811-022, HVAC. Let's see, what's the next question? How about COTS items for instant China? Dennis, I don't know what that means. The word COTS to me means commercial off-the-shelf technology, but I don't know what that means. Now, bear in mind, China is not a Trade Agreement Act compliant country, so literally go to any GSA website, use that blue magnifying glass and type in Trade Agreement Act so you can kind of find out about that. Let's see, 25,000 2 years combined on the GSA contract. Yes, Kristen, when you get a GSA schedule, we're going to require that you do $25,000 worth of sales under that contract vehicle within the first 24 months, and then every year thereafter, another $25,000. It's a fairly low bar. Does GSA 2-year requirement if you're a partner with a larger firm, i.e. for the business one? Rick, again, your date of birth would probably be mapped to your Dun & Bradstreet number. I understand that if you're partnering, you can't use somebody else's experience, the long and short of that. But I would be happy to talk to you specifically about what qualifications. Now, again, the GSA has small business offices scattered throughout the country. GSA has 10 regional offices, be they scattered from Auburn, Washington, San Francisco, Denver, Fort Worth, Kansas City, Atlanta, Philly, Washington, New York, and Boston. The local small business offices at GSA can help you, as can the PTACs. So a lot of these kind of questions would be right up the PTAC's alley, so I'm gonna encourage everyone to reach out to them. Let's see, do you penalize anyone who does not get any GSA scales? Nancy, yes, in fact. If you can't live up to that 2-year, you can give us you can come back to us. If we issue a notice that say we're considering canceling your contract for low or no sales, there is an opportunity that you can come back and provide the information. And I'll give you, again, one of the hard luck stories I had. Vendor was online for 2 years. They were given an award. The award was protested. They haven't received any task orders underneath that award yet until the protest has been hammered out. So they reached out to the contracting officer, and the contracting officer gave an additional 12 months to get those sales. Because through no fault of that vendor, they haven't gotten sales. Let's see. Hello, our VetViz is certified SDVO, SD, sells IT ergonomic equipment. We have an IT vendor and ergonomic vendor. So we're quite a bit of overlapping these schedules. Schedule 70 would benefit 2 schedules. Good question, John. Oh, he's left. You can, in fact, pursue more than one GSA schedule, depending upon what you think is in your best interest. John Young, I hope he comes back to me later with that question. Do you have to post your best price on Advantage? Yes, in fact, Dennis, this is a very transparent process. Your prices are up there. Your price list is accessible by everyone. So it does, in fact, kind of give away some of the intel that might have been a little bit harder to come by. But GSA Advantage is a transparent process. Your prices are available. Every vendor is required to publish and distribute a hard copy of their price list. But on the positive side, Dennis, you can also go and look at your competitors to see where you fit in the competitive range, just to see if things might, would be beneficial for you to come in. And again, that's part of that process, that introspective look to see where you're at. If you can look at your competitor pricing and say, we can't match that pricing, maybe this is not the vehicle for you. Don't want to turn you off, always want to encourage you, but that would be a question that the PTAC, our good friends out at the PTAC could help you with. If we're lacking in sales, are we just dropped from GSA? There is no fine imposed. Leanne, again, what we do is we would contact you if you have low or no sales. We'd ask you for a reason, and you might say that we're in negotiations. We're going to get an award in the 4th quarter of 17, and the contracting officer will probably give you additional time. I'm currently registered in SAM, but my cage code has not been validated. Can I still register with GSA? Leanne, I don't believe you can. I believe that is one of those fields that is required to be completed in System for Award Management. I'm going to, again, hand you off to my good friends at the PTAC. Let's see. Make sure you stress SAM. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go out and we're going to look at SAM real quick, just for everybody. There's a couple questions that popped up about SAM. Dun Bradstreet keeps asking me to join at a fee. Is this required? Not to my knowledge. There may be some added value or package that they're trying to sell you, but my understanding is Dun & Bradstreet is kind of like the Social Security Administration. Gives you an ID to mark your firm and only your firm. I would be a little cautious of that. Likewise, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave the ranch here a little bit and say I would be cautious that there are lots of consultants out there. I would turn to the SBA. I would turn to the PTAC. I would turn to GSA small business offices. Don't get me wrong, it may be a smart business decision to run your company day to day and let a subject matter expert get your offer through. But bear in mind that watchword my father said, you get the quality you pay for in life. So if a vendor is promising you the world for $5,000, and you see the other vendors are charging $25,000, you might be a little suspicious of what your money's actually being spent, and if you're actually going to accomplish what you want to. Can PTAC expedite my cage code? I'm going to leave that to your local PTAC. Is there a classification for minority owned? Yes, those are in fact disadvantaged businesses. Tony, I would ask you to go to the SBA and get that kind of, that information is available in GSA too, but SBA is actually the authority there. Where do I go to look for current contract offerings? FedBizOps. FedBizOps is the tool. You need to know your NAICS codes, and that's how you search intelligently. I would caution everyone, I would advise everyone, when you go to FedBizOps, there's something called the Advanced Search function. You can go in and put in your geographical preference of where you want to do work. You can put in your socioeconomic status. So if there's a small business set aside for a service disabled veteran or a disabled firm, you'll get those announcements. But most importantly, search by NAICS codes. And the idea here is NAICS codes are specific to an industry. So if you're a IT service provider, let's see, 541611 is the NAICS code that comes to mind. You're not going to get notifications about Toro lawnmowers or Xerox copy paper. So know your NAICS code, search intelligently on FedBizOps. Whose dog is Delilah? That's my wife's dog. She's a Morkie. If you saw the attachment, I just put one in there for the folks who got on early. I was chatting with people. They heard my dog bark. Delilah is a Morkie. She is a cross between a Maltese and a Yorkie, and she is 3 years old and weighs 5 pounds, full grown. Thank you, Darby. Cutest dog ever. Okay. Great information. Can we please follow up with me regarding commercial leasing? John, very specific question. Use that link that I gave you to introduce your firm. Give me the information. Tell me about your firm. Tell me where you're at. Tell me your expertise. That was that introduction paper. Frank, can we get a copy? Yeah, I'm going to send this email out to everybody who attended. Mr. Kanamu, great presentation. Thanks. Send PowerPoints. Can do, Nick. Let's see. How do we get a copy? Download copy. Wish I were doing contracting conferences. I'd invite you. Okay. Believe it or not, I've helped out PTACs. I've traveled locally. For instance, Frank Toth down at James Madison University wants me to come out and give some training. I've been out to College Park, Maryland to work with the PTACs, and I would be happy to talk to PTACs to see if I can do this virtually on your training schedule. Let's see, is there someone somewhere on the website that we can see a list of the GSA contractors in the area? Yes, in fact, if you use eLibrary, did I bump this down yet? eLibrary, okay. Great question. Again, the market research tool, we just picked on HVAC just for fun. We found that it was under contract 03FAC, SIN, special item number or category 811-002. If you click on that, you drill down, and then you find a greater detail about what actually falls underneath that facilities maintenance contract. And then it lists alphabetically the vendors that have come. Now, in that particular SIN for this particular schedule, there's 170 vendors. Well, one of the neat things about our tool is you can actually come over to this column, city and state, and run a sort. So you can now find all the vendors, and they've done it alphabetically. Now, this is reversed. So the first vendor comes up as West Virginia. What this tells me is there is no facilities maintenance contractor providing HVAC services in the state of Wyoming, because Wyoming would have popped up before West Virginia. Then the vendors in Wisconsin came up. Then the vendors in Washington came up. Then the vendors in Virginia came up. So there actually is a sort that you can go and do a sort before they came up alphabetically, but you can also do city and state. The functionality here is they can also, agencies can also find vendors by their socioeconomic status. So if you weren't familiar with it, you could click on any of these, and then it'll tell you the set-asides that the government concerns itself with. Small. Government speak, I love this one, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a large business, you are not hung with an L. you are tagged as O, other than small business, government speak. But women-owned small business. Again, there is a difference. Economically disadvantaged women-owned small business. Again, veteran is different from a service-disabled veteran. So these are the various qualifications. And again, when I tell people, take the time, kick the tires, open some of the links, and I apologize, I'm going way over time here. I hope that those are hanging on or getting something worthwhile out of this. Let's see. I will send this presentation out to all those who attend. Junior, the GSA is not allowed to procure and provide firearms and ammunition. However, we do offer training that may fall under your venue. Junior, look at Schedule 84. And again, if you're not familiar with it, when I tell you these websites are really robust, what we did was we just offerings, and I would probably say, Junior, you would probably be Marine Craft, Law Enforcement Ancillary, Wild and Fire, Alarm Systems, Alarm Signals, Firefighting Equipment. Junior, I would probably think that you might be looking at the SINs that start 426. You might look at 426 4J, 426 4G. Let's see, what schedule is additive manufacturing, particularly metals? Tony, you're gone. I'm going to talk to you later. When you clicked on the vendor icon e-library, those are essentially a checklist. Once you complete going through the checklist, you'll submit your solicitation. Is that correct? Yes. The process basically started, we can pick any schedule, click on this vendor link here to take you out to FedBiz Ops, and then in turn, this section here is the solicitation. I would tell you as a smart business practice, I print things out because I write in the margins. I put sticky notes on things. I highlight things if I have to come back and ask a question. This also is a good baseline. So I would tell smart business practice, keep a raw, untouched copy of the solicitation. Once you get your offer, print that out and put it in a 3-ring binder together. Then you have a baseline. So in 5 years, when you're the vice president and they give you the luxurious job of going to the U.S. Virgin Islands to do everything virtually, your replacement can have a baseline and they have an accurate copy of what the contract started with and what your offer was. Good question. Let's see, going through the checklist, you'll submit an offer. Yeah, you got to go through all these steps here. Let's see. If your contract is canceled due to lack of sales and you're restricted from reapplying for 1 year, does that restriction apply to other schedules as well? Kevin, I believe it only applies to the schedule that you failed to achieve the required sales. For instance, I have a lot of vendors that information technology can go under the professional services, they can go under the corporate schedule, or they can go under Schedule 70. That's a really good question. I don't know for sure, but I could follow up with that. Can vendors offer non-U.S. products on your schedule? Yes, in fact, the Schedules program is open to international firms and international products. Things like NAFTA are a major concern. So again, if you have any questions whatsoever, look at the Trade Agreements Act. And literally, I would tell everybody that's involved is if you go to GSA.gov, and this is the magnifying glass I'm talking about. So if you type in PAA, let me see if they know the acronym. Maintain your contract up. I think we probably got to use the full speak. Like any search string, if you type in trade agreement, fat fingers, bada bing, bada boom, Trade Agreement Act. And now this looks like it'll take you out to the Customs and Border Patrol with, oh yeah, Customs, yeah, that makes sense. You could go out to Wikipedia and get the same kind of questioning out there. Let's see. I put a bid into DLA and never heard back anything. I keep trying. PUC. Kevin Strickland, unfortunately, I cannot help you, partner. Defense Logistics Agency. what I would recommend to you, Kevin, is reach out to the small business office at DLA. This is a great example of how I'm saying the agencies you target, they have a small business office. They're hopefully run into somebody like me, Tom Corcoran. How do you handle price changes as technology advances pushes pricing downward? Excellent question, Adam. In technology, typically we start at a higher price. As technology matures and declines, for lack of a better word, we see price decreases. You can decrease your price at any time, but it is in fact a contract modification. You will have to resubmit your price list dated, I'll use today, 3/6/17 with your accurate, with your current pricing. There are provisions for price increases. It's a little bit more involved. If you are a service provider, I would ask you to write down the phrase economic price adjustment. The EPA clause allows service vendors to increase their wage rates by up to 10% per year. Now that is a cap. So if we paid you $100 a year, for a project manager this year, 12 months from now that job could come in, but the most you could increase it would be 10%, so then that would be $110. I'd encourage every service provider to go and look up the language that says economic price adjustment. There is a FAR clause, there is a GSAR clause. Let's see. Can I find a list of the agencies that use GSA? Yes, Tony, there is a tool called FPDS, Federal Procurement Data System. FPDS is searchable on my website, and you can generate ad hoc reports. So if you know your schedule, your SIN, or your NAICS code, you can actually generate ad hoc reports to identify the agencies that are buying that SIN, schedule, NAICS code, etc. I'm going to cover that under my Accessing Procurement Opportunities webinar that's upcoming. I'm going to send out the upcoming schedule when I send out the webinar for everybody, the slides, in case you haven't downloaded it. Let's see. What about streamlining past performance requirements for the expired contracts for successful e-offer? Dennis, I'd have to talk to you in greater length. I'm not sure what you mean about streamlining performance requirements. Again, we're still going to ask you for a minimum of 6 references. You have to do the past performance report. Look at the specific schedule on FedBizOps. Look at the past performance, and then there's going to be another section about vendor, what's it called? Vendor documentation or vendor supplied information, something to that effect. Let's see. Barbara, you're quite welcome, dear. There is no fee, by the way. If you contact customer service, they will send you the appropriate link. Okay. Is that something about e-offer? I don't know that. Is getting listed on open ratings for past performance requirements submitted to win a GSA contract? Yes, Roger, excellent question. The past performance report, when you download that in FedBizOps, at the top of that page, at the top of that request, it will identify a very specific GSA Schedule solicitation. This way, Open Ratings knows what office it goes to. Open Ratings sends you a copy of the report back. And remember, I told you to do it early. This is, again, one of those watchwords that if you get it and you find an inaccuracy, you want to dispute that with Open Ratings before you attach it. You want Open Ratings to correct it, make sure everything's accurate, current, and complete. That's one of those things I tell people, if you do the past performance early, it gives you a chance to address anything that might be incorrect. Good question, good question. Is there does it take to complete an e-offer? No, there is no deadline on how to complete an e-offer. Unfortunately, a lot of firms are, literally chief cook and bottle washers also preparing proposals. You can keep going back and forth into e-offer until the day you hit that submit button, and then the clock starts for GSA. That we try to get things done in 120 days. Again, each acquisition center, and it also depends on variables in my house too. Let's just say it's the end of the calendar year, and federal employees are horrible about taking use or lose time off at the end of the year. We are required to take certain training. Contracting officers must maintain their proficiency by taking, I think, 3 weeks worth of training a year. That might fall in when you submit your offer. Somebody's out of the office for a week. you will likely be assigned a contract specialist who reports to a contracting officer. And again, that in turn has its own inherent, kind of delay. My advice to vendors is make nice with your contracting officer. That's the best advice I can give you. Let's see. If your manufacturer is on GSA, how easy is it to utilize any of their info to develop your distribution network? Michael, that's something I could probably show you the e-library tool to identify the competitors, but literally it's going to be going back, since I don't have privity with that manufacturer, and I'll give you the best example. GSA does not have a contract with Intel, Microsoft, even though the government runs on this platform. That vendor has decided to use resellers rather than have a contract directly with the federal government, and it works for them. It was a business decision. There's other things I can talk to you about. Like I said, there's way too much in it. I apologize, folks. I've gone a half an hour over. Let's see. I'm a freshman here, and you were very informative. You're welcome, Mark. Thanks for sticking with me so long. How do you come up with pricing as a service company? Rick, the smartest thing I can tell you is go to eLibrary, find the event planning schedule, drill down to the special item number that you think is appropriate. In turn, find the vendors that are your competitors. One of the smartest things I can tell people about market intelligence in eLibrary is you can literally just go to eLibrary page and type in your competitor's name. You then in turn can see their price list. And I had a very interesting call about a vendor who wanted to supply local package delivery services in the DC area. And after going out and looking at his competitors' prices that have already been awarded, their price lists, I realized he needs to have a provision in there about delivery after normal business hours. Most of the vendors had a couple different methods for pricing. Some were by weight, some were by distance. Some people had provisions in there for inclement weather. So literally, I would challenge everybody, go out and look at your competitors, go and drill down and look at their price lists and see how they price things. And it will probably help you in the process of putting your business plan together and how you want to put your pricing together. Because if you see GSA's accepted this methodology of pricing, distance, inclement weather, weight, time, etc., it may help you prepare your offer. Let's see. I've heard there are two ways to get GSA contract. One is the normal way, and the other is buying a commercial price list. Christina, one of the questions we're going to ask you is, do you have a commercial price list? And this helps GSA's contracting officer establish that you do, in fact, have a viable business. These are your market prices. It's out there for the public. A lot of vendors, and I'll say it this way, in the service arena will say they don't have a commercial price list because they are bidding on tasks. It's not as cut and dried as providing, gym equipment. I mean, something like that. There are training modules for most of the solicitations, each of the acquisition centers, the small business offices. I'd encourage everyone to, use the link that, lost it. Didn't like that. I apologize. I'm now way over time, ladies and gentlemen. Let me look to the. Thank you very much. Marcus, I try to speak. I don't read slides. I hope everyone appreciates that. We're all professionals, and I'd rather have, let's see. Again, I have too much information here and too many questions. I would be happy to, let me try this one more time. Okay. I'm going to put this link on my email with the slides that I'm going to send out. I'm going to send out my calendar of the upcoming webinars. And literally, this is the preferred methodology. Again, I'm trying to answer these questions on the fly. I'm 30 minutes over. I really, really should have stuck to everybody's time, but I really appreciate that folks stuck with me. I see that I still have over 109 people on the call. I can't thank you enough for taking the hour and a half out of your busy schedule. I try to give information that's not cut and dry, that's not available for something that you can read. Now, I will give you different references. The process, if your business practices are quantified, again, if I could ask you, do you have a commercial price list? Can you give me 2 years worth of financials? Can you identify who your customers are, what type of discounts you get? If you are a reseller, can you give me the letters of supply? There's all sorts of little nuances about becoming a GSA schedule holder. One of the smart things that I tell everybody that you should do is go out to my friends at the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. The PTAC page is really simple to negotiate, and I love this right here. Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, free help with SAM registration and other contracting issues. What I like about this tool is literally you can click on any state and find somebody in your local area. So just for fun, I clicked on Wyoming, and if Brett's out there, I'll give Brett a big shout out in Casper, Wyoming. If you scroll down, if you're not near Casper, maybe Laramie's closer, or Cheyenne is closer. This is that simple. Riverton, there's 4 distinct areas out in Wyoming that you can go to, and I picked on that just for fun, but you can use the same thing no matter where you're at in the country. In Virginia, a lot of firms here in the DC metro area. So Petersburg, that's south of Richmond. Norfolk, that's way south of Richmond, down on the North Carolina line. Richland, I believe that's in that's west of the DC Beltway. Fairfax, inside the Beltway. Fairfax, matter of fact, let me give out, shout out to Frank Toth if he's on today. Frank, it was a pleasure working with you the other day. Speak strong enough. And what I like is this right here, boys and girls. 101 counseling tailored to specific needs for your business, always free of charge. When was the last time anybody told you about something free that really was free? With that, I thank everyone for hanging with me as long as I did. I'm a little wordy, but like I said, I could take 8 hours and give the same training. My next training was, and like I said, I will. This is another good website, the Training for Small Business page. They explain to you that mandatory training, pathway to success, readiness assessment. These were the things in the vendor toolbox we talked about early. Then there were other training that you could get to.